At the end of the Napoleonic Wars, Russia had a right to feel good about their place in the great power hierarchy of Europe. After all, they could be credited with starting Napoleon's downfall, after he invaded Russia with the largest army the world had ever seen at that point. Alexander I and the Russian army were able to withstand the Grand Armées, drive all the way to Moscow without any allies. And then, shockingly, they drove the French out of their country, which eventually led to the collapse of Napoleon's empire. By 1815, Russia had the world's largest army of 800,000 men. They further added to their international prestige by aiding the Greeks' bid for independence in the 1820s against the Turks. However, the Russian state, powerful in population terms, yes, was actually very internally weak. Nicholas I had succeeded Alexander I in 1825. Nicholas ran as an autocratic ruler with supreme power. He utilized a highly effective secret police force to maintain order and control. As well, in Russia, they still practiced serfdom at this point, which left large portions of the Russian population poor and uneducated. Worse still, industrialization and modernization were negligible. Even roads didn't exist to a high degree, and where they did exist, they were of very primitive quality. Railroads were even worse than that. By 1850, Russia had a little over 500 miles of track in their entire country. Compare that to the United States' 8,500 miles in the same year. The lack of modern transportation and low-level industrialization made Russia a supplier of materials for advanced economies like the British to use in manufacturing. That meant Russia's only access to manufactured goods was through trade, usually by sending grain to the industrial developed nations of the world. Lack of capital, low consumer demand, a non-existent middle class, vast differences in extreme climates, and the heavy hand of an autocratic state dragged the Russian country down over the course of the 1800s. Sure, they still had their massive army, still well over 800,000 in the 1850s, but having a large army isn't always a positive. Having such a large army is costly, and without a modern economy, the Russian army was barely a modern force. By the 1850s, their weapons were horribly outdated, and since they had such a small industrial capacity, supplying that army for any length of time would be extremely difficult for them. Basically, Russia at this point was the largest European continental power, but it was a paper